you may want to ask questions of Alex and his life, the way I have. So over to you, and there's just time for 3 or 4 questions.
John.
But yes, we've got one up here.
Hi, thank you so much for your speaking. I just have a question with regards to the work. Have you received any backlash or hate speech or threats personally or professionally? And if you have, has that affected the work that you've been doing?
No, thankfully, I have not. Or at least I have not heard it directly. I was strongly advised not to try to go back to Turkey anytime soon. Maybe because of some situations like this ones in which I maybe open my mouth saying a few things that some people might not like. So it's not, such trip is not right now in the plans. But thankfully, I have not been threatened or heard too many negative comments because of what I've done. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Really interesting. With all these photos, lots of people don't know about the Hizmet movement. Have you been able to, what sort of questions do people ask you, the people you work with or the people outside? How does that open out to other people?
For the most part, when I have shown, this work and I must say the broader project that I'm engaged with about Hizmet, of which this is a kind of a chapter within it, that work has not been widely shown. It's still in progress. So not too many people have seen that in maybe a few very intimate situations and circumstances. But I think the surprise has been very similar to my own at the beginning, realizing that this is taking place, that there's actually a lot of really good people doing really good things out there in the world, and it's not just awful things as we might feel at times because of everything that we see in the media, in the news. Yes, of course, there are like really horrible things going on and a lot of problems in our world. But at the same time, there are a lot of people doing great things, large great things, and like very small like great things that amount to a lot of good, and that's a big surprise to many.
Yes, one over here. We've got a microphone for you.
Thank you so much for your time today. I have 2 questions, or one question with 2 parts. So what for you was the most painful experience while taking these photographs and producing this exhibition? Painful but most sort of like teaching moment type experience. And secondly, what was the most rewarding experience?
Each one of the families and the people that I met, they had a very unique and a very important story to tell. It's hard to tell like which one is most important, but I can tell you like the ones that were most maybe touching to me, or not necessarily, the ones that resonate and stay with me the most. One of them, of course, is the one of baby Irene, for sure. And I just want to add to that story. That family today is, they decided to stay in Greece. They opened up a restaurant called Cappadocia Kebab. And it's beautiful. They send me pictures. The food looks amazing. So here's a little marketing moment here. So if you ever in Athens, look for Cappadocia Kebab and tell them that you heard about of them with these pictures. But there's another one. I'm going to get out of the camera in just a second. And I'm going to pull cool. This little boy, his name is Ekrem, and he's holding there, you see a picture that he drew of Spider-Man, his favorite superhero. So just so you know who Ekrem is very young, about 7 years old. He has a sister named Nusran, and he came from Turkey with his mother and father the same way across the Ebros on a cold winter night. For more than 7 hours, Ekrem walked silently without saying a word right next to his father and his mother. He didn't let them carry him. His father was carrying too much. His mother had his sister. Actually, there are three. Another one that she's just over a year, so she was in the arms always. But he walked over 7 hours quietly in the middle of the night, not to make a sound, so they wouldn't get caught across the border. To me, that's the face of a real superhero, right? That's the face that I would expect to see if I were to take Spider-Man's mask out. And that was for me like the most moving thing and the most special thing. I always think of him and like, you know, we all have troubles at times. We all worry about things, and like, you know, every time that if there's something that I'm preoccupied about it or something like that, I think of Ekrem and it's like, you know, it's like I'm dealing with nothing. You know, it's like what he has done, what he has gone through is, you know, is the stuff of mythology to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're out of time for the moment. We'll take one more. Final question.
Thank you. My name is Özgür. Welcome. Thank you. In your speech, and then you told about victimization. The people are not aware in other countries about this victimization of the Hizmet movement. So what is according to what is the way of this victimization? How will be separate to the people and will be aware about these victims? Yeah, this is my question.
Let's see if I understood correctly. How do we let others know about this victimization?
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, unfortunately, one of the things that have happened among the thousands of people that have been in prison in Turkey, many of them are those brave men and women that tell us about what's going on in the world, journalists. And I think Turkey right now is the second country with the most amount of like journalists in jail. So unfortunately, we don't get to hear as much of what's going on inside the country as there is. And it's not easy to go there from abroad to find out more. But when the story is out, then you know, there is the possibility of that. I don't know. I mean, there are people that do as much as they can to inform and to tell others. At the same time, there are a lot of forces out there that are trying to keep information from spreading, whether it is you know, political pressure from Turkey itself to other countries, to other places, to keep a lead on things, to maybe like, I don't know, other interests in other regions and not trying to like shift focus from it. Not exactly sure how the best way of spreading the news further is.
One more, all right. You snuck through.
Do you feel that it's up to the Turkish expatriates to effectuate positive political change for Turkey, given that the Turkish citizens who are living in Turkey are bounded by censorship? Because it seems those living in Turkey don't really have any power to do anything.
Well, that's a good question. And I guess we might feel the need to be more proactive and to speak up and to speak out loud and to shout whenever necessary about the injustices that we see happening not only around us, but maybe in our places of origins. Many of us are not living in the places that we were born in. And the truth is that I feel that most of us don't leave our homeland just because we get bored. Most of us would probably want to be living in the place that we were born, and we just can't. Should we speak up? Should we, take a more proactive stand against those injustices? I always felt the impulse to do that, right? At the same time, there's always a question, can that help, right? And maybe can, but what I find to be the most effective thing that we can do is to have a positive effect immediately around us with the way that we behave, with the things that we do, maybe not for the ones that are on the other side, but for my neighbor right next to me. As a young man, I always I admire many people. Like you probably you heard about the Che Guevara, right? Revolutionary, and many others like that that take on social causes and bring about revolutions that change things. Unfortunately, like these kinds of revolutions that we know of history, they tend to be violent, out of necessity to bring about change quick. But at the same time, they don't tend to last too long, because the revolutions might happen immediately in society, but they don't necessarily happen within the individual, right? So if the change happens within the individual, then it spreads out like the coronavirus, right? And I think that's the best thing that we can actually do. Yeah.
And an astute way to finish this conversation. Look, I urge you to have a look at those photos and ask, because there is a story behind every image in the room tonight. Would you thank Alex for bringing those images to us?